Chrissy is tuna on toast.
I am going crazy because Bad Sons are supposed to be here in like 1 minute. I have not fed Bonsai yet, and I still need to clean something up that Great, they're here right now. I'll have those guys feed my dog, and then I'll take care of that. Hi, who is it? Oh, yes! You're being filmed with Chris and Gavin.
Hello, how's it going?
Welcome. Good to see you again. Guys.
Good to see you, how are you?
Welcome. No!
Large.
Is this because you've seen an episode and you know
Yes.
my love of Captain?
Yeah, so we had to come proper, had to come correct.
You guys just rocketed from not being on the chart yet of favorite guests to favorite guests.
That's the point.
Straight to the top.
That's how we do it.
Hey, before we go in the studio, can you guys help me out with something?
Yeah.
Okay. I spilled something in the back, so can you feed my dog?
Yes. Yep.
This is the food. His dish is in the other room.
Okay.
If you feed him too much, he gets number 2 terribly.
How much is too much?
Give him like a square.
Okay, we'll do.
Are you gonna leave the fridge open? You're wasting electricity. All right, I'll be right back.
Oh, whoa. What's up, dude? You're about to eat good. Doesn't look stoked.
I've never seen this kind of dog before. It's kind of cute.
This isn't even a real dog. You've been lied to.
How'd you guys do?
Not so good.
It took me a long time.
Oh,
there's the dog.
Okay.
Is it a stunt double?
Yeah.
The dog is looking at me all crazy.
Hey, I'll take it. He's very, very excited. Let me put this away.
You had me with that one.
Well, you already fed the dog, and I appreciate that. So now we're gonna play a little game, and this could be the most hacky game I've ever invented.
Okay.
But I'm going with it anyway because it makes me happy.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna give you a character, a son, from a TV show or movie. Just tell us what TV show or movie it's from.
Okay.
And let's kind of do rapid fire, and whoever knows it first can say it, or you can say pass. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Character's name: Brandon Walsh,
Pass.
Alex P. Keaton,
Pass.
Marty McFly,
Back to the Future. I know that one.
Chris Griffin,
Family Guy? Oh, yeah, actually. Yep.
Carlton Banks,
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Walter White Jr.,
Breaking Bad.
Harrison Morgan,
Pass.
Kevin McAllister,
Home Alone.
Rusty Griswold.
The Griswolds. Wait, Family Vacation?
Yeah, bam. Jason Voorhees. Bam. Johnny Lawrence.
Pass.
He's from your area.
Wait.
The character.
Pass.
John Connor.
Oh,
Last one. This is a tough one. Danny Torrance. Horror movie.
oh, I know. Oh, The Shining.
Bam! All right, watch your head and your feet coming in.
All right.
I'll be here. You guys choose a seat.
Excellent.
Looking good.
Let me close this. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tuna on Toast. I am Ted Stryker, joined by a band today who just released their 4th studio album, Apocalypse Whenever. Here in the Tuna on Toast studio from Bad Sons, it's Gavin and Christo. Guys, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having us. We're honored.
I'm very confused by something.
Yeah.
Christo,
Okay.
we were all together for many hours recently, and there was a gentleman there named Brian. He was calling you Chris the entire time. In my past hangouts with you, all professional, I say Christo. So what the hell am I supposed to say? And you can pass on this answer if you want.
No, it's a good question. People ask me that all the time. It used to be that, well, my name is Christopher, so Chris has been my nickname for a long time, but when our guitar player Ray joined our band 10 years ago now, he started calling me Christo, just like,
Okay.
and eventually it stuck, and I just thought my name was so boring, just Chris Bowman. It looked a little too much like Chris Brown when you kind of squinted your eyes. I was like, Christo just felt a little bit more interesting. One of the guys named Daft Punk, his last name is Hammond Christo or something. I was like, that sounds cooler. So it just kind of stuck. And it used to be a thing that if you were my friend, you called me Chris, and if you knew me from the band, you called me Christo. But now so many years have passed that my friends call me Christo, and it's, whatever. I'm cool with all of it.
Okay, what is it called? What's the word when someone is super fancy and they think, oh, God. It's the opposite of that, Christo. I thought it was going to go, please call me Christo at all times. It's a freaking nickname. That's it.
That's it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sophisticated nickname.
How long have you guys known each other, you two?
Oh God. We met in 2006.
So, yeah, it's been
Yeah.
just over 15, 16 years.
We met the first day of 7th grade.
So let's just let that sink in for a while for those of you listening and watching the show today. You're under 30 years old, right?
Yes.
Yes. And you have 4 full-length albums out. That is a huge achievement with a incredible fan base, and you've built this thing up, and they stick with you. 15 years ago, or however many years ago, what was the plan for you, either personally or professionally, Christo?
I think we wanted to do this. I feel like since a very young age, we've kind of been just on the path of getting here somehow. It all started actually with a band who you have their plaque on the wall. It started with Blink-182. The first thing that Gavin said to me in first day of science class, he was sitting behind me and he was like, I saw your MySpace. And I was like, oh yeah. And because my you can make your own profile and like HTML and all that stuff. So mine was all decked out in like Blink-182 regalia.
His background was Atticus, the bird,
right.
tiled on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and being 12, I was like, wow, that's cool. And I think he was playing guitar in his profile picture.
Oh yeah, it was.
You were playing guitar in your profile at 12 years old. You
Yeah.
knew about Blink-182. You were playing guitar. It's just so... You guys are just so mature musically, and as humans, it's almost hard for me to wrap my head around how
thanks.
advanced you are at the age you are at.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We try.
We try, and we just fell in love with music. And I think seeing, like, the reason why I think Blink appealed to us so much, especially when we were younger, was the music was incredible, first of all. The videos were hilarious. It was just all of this. They looked cool. And, like, if you watched interviews or saw their tour footage or any of that stuff, it just looked like they were having the most fun in the entire world. And the idea of playing music with your best friends, traveling, playing in front of people, right away I was like, what could possibly be better than that? And so we kind of just went looking for it. And
Sure.
So to be here now, all those years later, and we get to, travel the world and play music and be with our best friends, it's like, it feels pretty amazing.
Kudos on everything you have accomplished so far. What my brain goes to the following, and Gavin, I'll go to you on this. Mm-hmm. There's a zillion people who at 15 years old want to be a pro athlete or a musician, and for a variety of reasons, it doesn't happen. But one of them is from like the 15 to 22-year-old part of their life, maybe they're putting 40% into the profession. Mm-hmm. Like, how was your brain ticking at that time to know that if we're going to do this, we actually have to put some hard work into this? No one's going to hand us anything here.
Well, I think Chris and I started playing together when we were both 15. And so leading up to like out of high school, we were already playing shows like all over the place. Wow. And like it was only, I think it was less than a year from when the two of us graduated high school to where we technically got a record deal or anything, But we had already been we were rehearsing like several times a week, every week up into that point. So we were already putting in the work as band members in a band and playing all over the place to 5 people and stuff like that. So it seemed like it was a really slow build. It seemed really natural for us to kind of transition into like the reality of being a working musician out of that,
There were a few things, because I remember, like he said, we were playing shows after school, and like I remember your mom would get really bummed. We'd come home super late, and it wasn't cool. And we found ourselves to a certain point where we knew kind of the impossibility of what we wanted to do. Like I remember my parents would always tell me, like, there's a 1 in like a million chance that you could do this. And I was like, oh, I don't like those odds. So just did all that we could to like really like knowing that in the back of my head. And then I remember too, when we graduating high school, we were kind of like, okay, well, we're going to take the year off. We're not going to go to college. Like if we don't make this, if we can't make something work in the next year, then, we'll get a real job. We'll go to college. We'll do all that stuff. And we just really didn't want to do that. So we lucked out and we just before that year was up, we signed a record deal, which which was surreal. I remember actually when we released the song Cardiac Arrest, we were driving to do a callback to work at the American Apparel store in the Topanga Mall.
Yep.
Come on.
I didn't get a call back. Chris did though. I didn't look good enough.
Well, they were going to put me in the back of the. I was going to be in the back doing backstock. I was like, I don't even want to do this. And so we decided not to go. We just released that song, fingers crossed. And then like a few weeks later, they were playing it on K-Rock. Cat Corbett picked
On the
it up.
Locals Only show?
Yeah.
On Sunday nights.
Yeah, and that kind of changed our lives overnight.
You were going to get this job.
Yeah.
The song starts to get some traction. You're like, we're done with the job. I interviewed this artist named Jason Mraz years ago, and he was talking about how much time he was going to give himself before he's like, I'm going to throw in the towel and get a real job. You said you were going to give yourselves a year at 17, 18 years old. He said he was giving himself 10.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
10. He's like, I'm going 10 years at this, and then if it doesn't happen. Do you ever think about now, like, how lucky you are that something did happen that year? Because it sounds like you were actually going to go to school or move on with something if it didn't.
Yeah, I think we're incredibly lucky. Like that, the odds of that happening are like, you know, like he was saying, 1%. Like, and I think we would have continued to be in a band if all of us ended up going to college after that year, and it would have been way different. But we would have kept working at it. So I think the year was just to like do nothing, and to like, I mean, I don't think any of us put a time on how long we would try to be musicians. It was just kind of like, if we're not any step closer to like, you know, being, you know, professional musicians within that year span, then like my mom's not going to let me just chill at home and not have a job and, you know, rehearse several times a week for nothing, you know.
So how did it go down when you got a record deal at that time? Did you have to, you were playing these shows, did someone see you? Did someone get a demo? How did that happen?
So a lot of things started with us meeting our producer, Eric Palmquist. So it's a funny story. My parents are both flight attendants. And so my mom, she's super proud. And one day she was just talking to one of her other flight attendant friends in like the galley. And this guy overheard her conversation. They were talking about my music or whatever. And this guy walks up, is this guy Todd from Interscope Records. And he's like, I heard you talking about your son's band. I'm really curious. And so she gave him a demo CD because, of course, she had them on hand at all times.
Wow.
And
Peanuts, demo,
yeah,
peanuts.
seriously. And so then he gave that CD to a guy named Tim Boris in Santa Barbara, who was an attorney who represented us for a while. And then he, from Santa Barbara, knew this guy, Eric Palmquist, and he passed our music along to him. And so then all these kind of dominoes were falling, and eventually we started working with Eric, and he really believed in the band. And so we didn't have a record company, we didn't have management, we just had these songs, and we started working these like kind of odd gigs. I remember like we were in like a Volkswagen commercial as like the band in a garage, and like we kind of found these weird ways to make some money and get in the studio with him. And so we were 17 and we recorded like the third of the first record, the red one right there, like Cardiac Arrest, We Move Like the Ocean, Matthew James, Transpose. And so we recorded those songs. Eventually Cardiac Arrest came out, and then once K-Rock picked it up, we dropped our drummer had a genius idea. We went and dropped off the CD at the K-Rock just like mailbox, and they started playing it. And then the next thing we knew, we were just getting phone calls and emails from all these types of people in the industry. Like, we didn't believe it.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because it was like the next day after the first night that they played us, like our email starts blowing up, which I feel like is very, very surprising when I look back at it, because that's a lot of people for some reason listening to Locals Only on that Sunday that were interested in what we were doing. And
a lot of people listen to Locals Only, and I hope you guys understand how good you are, because a lot of people, there was so much music coming in. And when you dropped yours off, kudos to Kat, who took the time to listen to everything.
Thank you.
And then hearing Cardiac Arrest, I'm like, yep, instant. This is going on. This sounds like something that maybe inspired or influenced my musical taste in 1988, but it also feels like it's the 2000s. Like, what a wonderful combination right there.
Thank you. Yeah, we're still proud of that music. It's nice to be able to, there's a lot of time when you're trying to do what we're trying to do, and there's a lot of bad songs you write. So it feels nice that from that point forward, when I look back, I'm pretty proud of everything we've done.
The producer you were mentioning, he's done 3 of your 4 records?
Yes.
So he worked on Apocalypse Whenever.
Yes.
So as you guys have matured in all ways possible, has the relationship changed with him when you're in the studio, or does it still feel like you're the new kids on the block with him? Not the band, but just being new kids.
It's a good question. It's progressed, but one of the things that we really like about working with him is, and I think it's good for any producer, is he feels like a member of the band, and we're able to sort of all collaborate in a way that we're super comfortable with, but at the same time, and especially because we took some time off from working with one another for our 3rd record, Mystic Truth, when we got back, there was this kind of fresh energy, and we're both learning, and we're both getting better as time goes on, and so. Yeah, it feels new and exciting. And this record, it felt like the thing that I wanted to be really clear about when we were talking about it was even if we were going to work with Eric again, I didn't want there to be any sort of sense that we were going backwards or trying to go towards something we had done. It needed to feel fresh and like we were moving forward. And so that's something that it's kind of hard to pull off. And a lot of the times, bands might kind of go back to square one, or there's like the Back to Basics album. And that wasn't what we were trying to do at all. But, it's like if one of the 4 of us was no longer to be in the band or wasn't playing, it's just different. Like the 3 of us were playing together with different guitar players for a couple of years, and it never felt right until like the day Ray walked into the room. It's like when you put on a leather jacket and it fits right, and you're like, oh, this is unusual.
Yeah.
It's like they're always like too big or too small. They look whatever. So Ray was kind of our leather jacket.
Is it hard for you to not look at streaming numbers and YouTube numbers? Because you're going to make an album how you want to make it, and world, here it is. Or do you get consumed with that?
It's somewhere in the middle. Like I look at those things, and I'm happy with where we're at. It's cool. It's just, to me, it's crazy to see like tens of millions of people listening to songs, and like we have a song that's about to hit like 100 million streams, which is just like a comical number to me. So yeah, it's cool to see that stuff but at the same time, it was sort of all we had during the pandemic to kind of gauge people. I much prefer, rather than looking at that stuff, looking out into a crowd and seeing the faces of a bunch of just stoked kids just singing along. And that to me registers in my brain a lot better. And that's a bit more satisfying, is hearing your song being sung back to you. Like that's the real reward, I think, in what we do.
Yeah, if I look at numbers, I'm snapping. It's
really,
yeah, it stresses me out for some reason. Just having access to like all the little analytical stuff, I'm like, I can't be looking at that.
Right.
Or I'm like, oh, how do we get more streams? Like this streamed more on Tuesday. Why? I can't.
Apocalypse Whenever, did it feel like an easy album to make, or did it feel like more difficult? Because sometimes some bands have been in here and like, as we've put out our 3rd and 4th record and get a little older, we tinker way too much now, and the songs are sitting there, and then I go in the morning and I change a guitar. What's it like for you?
It was a bit both. It was challenging because I think we felt we had a lot to prove with this one, but at the same time, I think we've come to find that the best songs, they tend to sort of fall out in a way which feels effortless at the very beginning. This is usually... And then the lyrical process, I write and rewrite, and there's a lot of tinkering, and sometimes a song will take a day, and sometimes a song will take months and months. And I like both processes. But the thing is, I think knowing when the song is done, that's a hard place to get to. And when you're not there yet, like when you still feel like you need to work on some things, that's the difficult part, was when you're trying to figure out sometimes what that is. But we had the luxury of time making this new album. And we had a lot of fun, and it was really a collaborative experience for us. We got to write a lot of really awesome songs together in sort of unconventional ways. Like there were times when we couldn't be in the studio, so we had to be writing together over like video chat, which was surreal. And like it's kind of like anything else. There were quite a few songs, and then a couple which were amazing that came out of that process. Some of my favorites.
Go ahead. What do you like?
There's 2 songs. One that we just released called Life Was Easier When I Only Cared About Me was written over a video chat, and then another song called Heaven Is a Place in My Head. The lengthy titles on the album.
Yeah. I love that song you just said right there.
Thank you.
Heaven Is a Place in My Head. I love that.
Thank you.
Are your parents still flight attendants?
They are.
Wow. For the same airline?
Yes.
Do they fly in the same airplanes, or do they stay away from each other on that?
It's happened. Yeah, they've done trips together, but mainly 2 different airplanes.
So when you were growing up and they were both gone, who was it? Did you have a babysitter? Were you running the show? How did that work?
It was usually one or the other would be gone, but also that was one of the reasons I lived in Miami when I was until I was about 4. That's where they were based at the time. But my family, like on my mom's side, they all lived here in the valley, so that was a reason for us moving to the valley when I was so young. So my grandparents would watch me, or yeah, that kind of a thing.
All right. Gavin, I don't need the exact address, but where in the valley did you grow up?
I grew up in Calabasas.
Oh, you did in Calabasas. And then
Directly across the street from the Commons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, legendary spot.
And then you guys went to which high school?
Calabasas High School.
Calabasas. Okay, for some reason I thought it was Woodland Hills High or somewhere there. You went to Calabasas High, and I'm sure you know some of the there's some good bands from that
Incubus,
area.
baby.
What's that?
Incubus.
Yeah, exactly.
I had the same English teacher as Brandon Boyd.
My 9th grade math teacher, her sister was married to the guitar player. What's the guy's name?
Mikey Einzinger?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
And she'd always tell me, if you get good grades, I'll try and get you tickets to Incubus. And I was like, wow. And I didn't get good grades, so never saw Incubus.
Have any of your teachers or anyone, any teachers in your past ever reached out on your social media and be like, hey, I was your bio teacher?
Not for me. I'd like to think that no one that taught me in school would really remember me. So in a good way, though. So
Yeah.
I didn't have a close relationship with any personal teachers, but I'm waiting for that. If any teachers are watching this, reach out so I can feel good about myself.
But it has to be spoken about amongst the teachers that, hey, a couple of our students got a record deal early. They've played Coachella, played festivals, headline tours. It has to be talked about when they're having their coffee and donuts.
I wonder. I've kept in touch with a few of my teachers from elementary school over like Facebook through the years, and they've had kind things to say. So yeah, it's cool.
But when you were done with high school and you guys are professionals, what's the living situation at that time? Do you stay at home and that's where you guys practice, or how did that work?
Yeah, we lived with our parents but also once we started touring, we were gone for a big chunk of the year. Like I think the first year we started touring was 2014, and we were gone for maybe 9 out of 12 months or something like that. So we kind of hit the ground running. And by the time we started taking some time to record our second album, I think when we were making that album, we were like 20, 21. And at that point, at the end of once we started touring that, it was kind of like, all right, so I needed to get out of my parents' house. I was starting to feel a little bit like it was time to leave the nest. And what we did was we all did what any band should do, that's with each other for 9 out of 12 months of the year, and we spent those other 3 months living together in a house. We got a house in the valley down the street from our parents' place, and then and it was actually a really fun time. It was a fun chapter in our lives.
And is that before Disappearing Here came out?
That was after we released it, and sort of while we were touring it, we were living together as we were writing Mystic Truth.
Wow.
In that house.
Was it a 4-bedroom house, 3-bedroom house?
4-bedroom house.
Okay, so everybody had their own bedroom.
Yeah.
Where's this? I'm so curious about this stuff when bands say they live together. Do you guys have a similar sleeping schedule where, okay, we're all going to bed at 2 or 3 a.m., which means you get up at a similar time, or someone up till 5 and someone goes to bed at 11?
I think it was more like that. We were all over the place. Yeah. Like we didn't have like, all right, guys, good night, see you in the morning, and we're all like cuddled up at the same time, but all in different schedules. We would just jam during the day when everyone was up and, had coffee and food and felt like it, but it was fun.
What do you guys attribute your not only longevity to, but putting out 4 albums, but those that found you when the first record came out are not only like still checking you out, but buying the tickets and going and supporting?
Yeah, I mean, I wish, I don't know if I have the answer to that. I think that we just, it's like when we talked about like, hit songs, like the thing for us is we're never really chasing those metrics or those statistics, but with any song of ours that's really resonated with people, the thing for me is they have to cross some things off the list. And the box they all check is they all come from a really real place, and they're all really, they came from a real place, and they're all very inspired, and they're songs that we loved. And when we were making them and when they were arriving or falling out, it was like we knew there was something special happening. So that's the thing that we chase. And I think, whether a song goes up the charts or in the middle of the charts or off the charts, as long as it's still comes that same way, that's the thing that really matters. And maybe there's something about that resonates with people, or that people resonate with. It's a very fortunate position we're in, and I think that
Absolutely.
we thank the fans.
I mean, because there are some groups, and everybody knows who they are. You could probably list 5 right now, where your band and that band put out an album, first album, same year. And maybe that year they played to however many millions of people. But now, no one knows where they are. No one knows where they are or what they're doing. And here you are with really great songs on the new record, Apocalypse Whenever.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been kind of a trip. Like, that was something that we paid attention to when we were doing the circuits back in the early days, the festival circuits.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bands that have stuck around and are still making music, and there are buddies of ours that we love, and we're stoked that we're both still doing it. And then there's some bands that you just kind of never hear from again, and it's unfortunate, but hey, we're still here, so that's what matters to us.
Absolutely. Gavin, I'm going to throw some things at you guys that I'm curious about, and it's the business side of it. And you're with Epitaph Records. This album, Epitaph, the last one as well. Is it hard for your band, any band, but you speak for yourself here, to navigate the business?
Yeah.
It
I
is.
think I personally have no idea how a younger artist would make it in music today. And I think, like, just because there are so many different ways to get exposure, whether it's labels or not, I think our experience with Epitaph has been really nice, and it was tricky for us to find a home for like the kind of music that we do make, because it's alternative rock, but it's not fully like it's not punk, it's not like avant-garde or anything, it's not fully pop either. So like finding that home was really difficult, but we've been really happy with it, and I think we get a lot of love from over there and have great relationships with the people that work there. But from that, navigating the music business is something that I'm like, no idea how that works.
Yeah, between Vagrant Records and Epitaph Records, like, our North Star has kind of just been like, we won't sign to your company unless Alkaline Trio has put out a record on your thing. So that's kind of that's all I look for.
That's not you right there. Did you, when you sign with Epitaph, do you meet with Brett? Is it like 2 hours of meetings? Are there other people? How does that work?
There's a bunch of lovely people over there. Chris Foytel, Matt McGreevy, Jason Link, Brett Gurewitz, Legend, so many more that I'm gonna stop naming them now so I don't forget one or the other. But it's pretty trippy. Like, when we were younger, we were playing in like straight up punk bands, so it was a dream of mine since we were in high school to be on Epitaph Records. And then when we started making like the type of music that you hear on our first record, and then circle back once it happened, it was sort of like, whoa, this full circle thing that kind of happened. Like, I remember probably like I would like tweet at their Twitter and stuff, be like, listen to our songs or whatever. And then all these years later, we're like sitting in the room, and it's Brett Gurewitz, another Valley Woodland Hills legend. We grew up in the same neighborhood pretty much. So yeah, it feels really cool. We're both in the 2 best bands from the Valley with the word bad in there.
Bad Religion, Bad Sons. There we go.
Baby.
Yeah, so it's really cool.
And with Epitaph, I mean, yeah,
it's cool. I think there's a lot of probably disgruntled Epitaph fans from like the 90s or whatever.
No,
who probably our video
surprised.
Our video pops up on their feed like, what's this shit? Whatever. It's like, but it's cool. We like being sort of out of place. I think it's cool, not totally fitting in.
100%. And the label Epitaph, they are signing bands that aren't a stereotypical punk band as the years are going. They would be stupid not to.
Yeah.
And Brett has always been a forward thinker and a business guy. And so, yeah, it's 100% the right moves, and I'm glad you're with them.
Me too.
All right. Can we discuss the project that I did with you the other day?
Yeah, let's talk
at the
about
studio.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. As we're sitting here right now, it's not available for people to watch, but I think as you're watching it is going to be available. What the hell did I do? What is that?
What didn't you do? There was a lot going on in that. We just kind of had this idea. We wanted to promote our album in a way that we hadn't done before, and as opposed to just like making another music video, we thought, well, why don't we just promote the whole thing and make a video that we want to come back to and watch again? And wouldn't it be funny if we bought some local airtime on like public access TV and ran this thing? And so that's kind of where the idea stemmed from, was we wanted to make this like bizarro alternate universe television network in which every single channel is trying to sell you our album. That was the idea.
And I'm on there as the host of the infomercial.
Yeah.
Kind of the over the top, hey, come to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, you did
Nailed
a great
it,
job.
too.
You did a great job.
You've seen some of the footage?
I haven't seen the
I'm
footage.
so nervous that I ruined Apocalypse Whenever and the rollout of the album.
Not even
by my
close.
performance.
Just watching it, we were like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, it was amazing. Looking over the cameraman's shoulder, I was just very pleased, and I got to watch it on the screen, and it looked amazing. I'm very excited.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Oh, my God. Wow.
That was a fun day.
I'm very nervous about that. All right, so you guys are hitting the road. The new album is out. Everybody's getting along pretty well in the band.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
We've been friends for a long time, and I think that's like, friendship. Like a band where we're actually friends. Like we didn't really meet each other to like specifically like, let's play in a band, and I don't really like you, but it's all good. And so, I mean,
We didn't meet in like the classifieds kind of a thing, which is, it's been a benefit to us. And also we're like 4 guys. And so sometimes guys have a harder time like communicating with each other than like, for instance, like I see the way that my girlfriend and her friends all talk to each other and how much they talk to each other. And I'm like, how do you like, it's so foreign. I'm like, I wish we just have a harder time doing that. But I think that being in a band for as long as we have, and like the amount of love and respect we have for each other, it's like we just kind of work on these things. And we get in fights and we get into arguments, but it's always like we're always coming from a place of love. So it's like we're figuring it out, and it's fun to grow with people who you really love and appreciate.
and I've seen so many people talk about it, and I really think being in a band in a weird way is like being in a marriage or a relationship, to where it's like things will come up, everyone's growing and learning individually because we're not just one unit, and if we're hitting issues, we really have to work on them, or else it's gonna like that kind of stuff tears apart bands, tears apart the relationships. So it's like always trying to like make our relationship between the 4 of us the best it can be, so we can like continue to make music and not like be like, oh, I'm out of here, I quit.
Yeah. And you've seen a lot of bands do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's one of those things that you never want to see happen to yourself. And well, it depends, but for us, it's like I don't think any of us could picture ourselves doing anything else, because, like I said, I think we find ourselves to be in this incredibly fortunate position where we get to make music and people want to listen to it and sing along, and we get to do it with our best friends. So it's rad. You want to do whatever you can to preserve that, however many awkward conversations or like things you need to do or like things you have to work on, all that stuff. It's like a marriage, if you want to sustain it, you got to do the dirty work.
The visuals, aesthetic, and the sound of your band from day one up until this point are so appealing in every single way. You mentioned earlier how much you loved Blink and you loved their videos and you wanted to tour the world because of that and that sort of thing, and it would be so fun in a band. Yet the style of music is not really a Blink-182 style. Why does the music fly off your instruments and the words out of your mouth in the way it does?
That's an interesting point. I mean, I think it's the thing, if anything, from Blink really stuck with us, even though we make totally different kinds of music. It was just the melodies always really resonated with us, and the songwriting at its very core. They wrote such catchy songs, and that was what really got into our ears. And from them, as a jumping off point, they did that self-titled record, which featured a song with Robert Smith of The Cure, which kind of crossed a lot of bridges for us. And we actually had the pleasure very recently. We were on tour with Angels and Airwaves, and Tom DeLonge was just the coolest guy in the world. And he'd come into our dressing room and just kind of share all these stories, and he told us about his time and funny stories about them playing with Robert Smith and recording together and all this stuff. And it was so cool because just to sidetrack for a second, I'll get back to the point.
Please.
But what was so special about that was like he was talking about this times with Dave Gahan of Depeche Mode and Robert Smith of The Cure and all the different opportunities he's had to like be with his heroes and his musical heroes and all that stuff, and being able to talk to them, and you could just see in his eyes like how much those things meant to us, and like for him to be sharing that with us who looked at him in that same way, that was super cool for us. And I think he like got that and knew how cool and special it was, and like he wanted to share that with us, and that was so badass. They say you shouldn't meet your heroes, but that doesn't apply to Tom DeLonge, coolest guy in the world.
Wow. And that tour, because Tom was on this podcast, he sat in that chair right there. He came over, he rode his motorcycle here, and it was the day before that tour was starting.
Okay.
And so, of course, I was watching all the Instagram and everything. That tour looked so fun, and there were so many people out on that.
That was a great tour.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll never forget that one. It felt like just the best summer camp of all time.
Wait, so you've met Robert Smith then?
We haven't
You
met
have
him.
not.
No.
Okay.
We'd love to. Robert, if you're out there. Actually, I don't know. I feel like I might be too scared, too intimidated. But no, I really want to.
But that seems like a perfect fit. Or Dave from Depeche Mode. Like, you guys
be
getting in a
awesome.
room together and creating a couple songs? Why can that not happen?
That'd be sick.
Yeah, that
But
would
yeah,
be good.
there's some kind of like, and also the fact that Thomas and Blink were so influenced by those bands to bring it back to where we started. It's like, but you don't really hear that. But we sort of melded all these things together. And for whatever reason, I think because of the music that our parents grew up listening to, a lot of the 80s new wave stuff, like The Cure, Depeche Mode, The Smiths, I could go on and on, The Police, Elvis Costello and The Attractions. It was just, we found that melodic sensibility that Robert Smith has in The Cure. To me, it resonated with me right away. So the first time I heard it, I was like, this is amazing. And as we started playing music, rather than, I don't know, that sort of palette musically just felt really interesting and inspiring to us. And like you said, we're kids born in the 90s who are, for some reason, infatuated with music of the 80s because all that stuff still was being played on the radio when we were coming up. It's like you would hear Third Eye Blind and you'd hear Sugar Ray and all these other great songs, but then you'd hear, you know, like I'll Stop the World and Melt with You, or you'd hear
Friday I'm in Love. Lullaby.
Yeah, Personal Jesus.
Yeah.
All these incredible songs, Tainted Love,
Blasphemous Rumors. Yeah.
Yep.
So that stuff always kind of it does have this nostalgic element for us too, because we still grew up listening to that music, even though we weren't necessarily alive when it was being made.
Yeah, and I think definitely like finding our space as a band, like listening to all the recordings from those times, like every record that you were listening to is like, it's wildly experimental with the actual recordings of it, all the sounds and like the arrangements of all that stuff. And I think like as a group, it's really inspiring to go back and listening to how you can like add all of these influences and different sounds into your recordings, like specifically from that time, because it's like rock bands from the 90s, I feel like way more straightforward. There's not all these crazy sounds happening, and that's in a way a weird way to make our band more like modern almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like if you were to like say take Close to Me by The Cure and re-record it now, it would still be like a really interesting modern sounding record.
Yes.
You know? And so that's just, it seems like the natural thing for us to like really want to hone in on. It's just like those, I don't know, it's so tricky for me to talk about, but.
Christo, and I know, oh man, we're almost 40 minutes in. Was it tough for you ever early on to get on stage and sing in front of people?
You know, I mean, yes and no. For some reason, I had this sort of like arrogance that I should go up there and people should listen to the songs I was writing, you know, which is, of course, I'm sure it was horrible, especially at the very beginning. But I think you need to have a little bit of that sort of insanity or delusion in order to do what it is that I do, what it is that we do. I think some of that, like just the right amount, can be helpful in getting you on that stage, but you don't want it to go past a certain point to where, you know, you don't want to be an asshole essentially. But yeah, I don't know. So there was always that. I just love doing it so much. And now it's nice that I get to do it and there's like people there as opposed to like a few people there. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of people there. It started off with this record,
Yes.
Language and Perspective. Then we went, does this disappear here? Then
Yes.
we went, disappear here. And then we went over to Epitaph. And we had Mystic Truth. And now out right now is Apocalypse Whenever. Bad Sons, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for having us.
Thank you for having
A
us.
lot of fun, man.
God, this was really fun. I'm glad I got to learn so much about you guys, and because I wasn't sure, I kind of knew a couple stories, but I didn't know 100%. So that was rad. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having
A lot
us.
of fun.
Yeah, it was great talking with you.
All right, find them on the road. Do a deep dive into their music if you are brand new to Bad Sons. For the guys right next to me, I am Ted Stryker. Happy Snuggles. Bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed. Now hit that subscribe button. And for more Tuna on Toast, listen wherever you get your podcasts.